Oh, let me change this.
Okay.
Is our police partner on yet?
Not yet, but they have the link.
Hey, Michelle.
Ditto.
Hi, Detective Lombardi.
Hi, Detective.
It's 6:30. Whenever you guys are ready to get started, we have our speaker. So
And he has a time constraint. So do you want to start, Valerie? Anyone could join.
Oh, yeah, sure. I just wanted to welcome everyone tonight to the October meeting of the Small Business Committee. We have a very varied agenda tonight. And the first thing we wanted to, obviously, at our full board meeting, we heard, what happened at UES. And unfortunately, I'd like to say that, well, I mean, let's just say there have been more of those incidents than the community as well as our precinct would like. So we thought it was extremely important to have someone from the 19th precinct come and talk to us this evening about safety and security for our small businesses. And the good news about this, I think, is that even if we don't have a lot of people live tonight, that this session is available and is taped and is available to be seen by others beyond this evening. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Detective Michael Lombardi, who has attended many of our meetings, and we see him at many community events. And he is definitely a friend of this community. Detective Lombardi. Welcome.
Hi, how are you? Thank you for having me. It's nice to see some familiar faces on here. I heard Valerie was instrumental in apprehending an arrest on Saturday on Madison Avenue. So we thank you for that. We always happy when our community members do see something and they're quick to notify a police officer who was on Madison Avenue, who's posted that's we have 2 officers assigned to Madison Avenue that is a patrol post, and they acted quickly and were able to locate other witnesses and a store clerk, and they actually were able to arrest the perpetrator who stole $8,000 worth of product from that store. So we're very happy to have community members that do assist and help us so we can make arrests like that. So I know just to address the situation that happened at the UES, we did post up a lot on Twitter and our social media platforms about the individual that we're looking for. That was an isolated incident here in the 19th precinct. He is wanted in connection with 2 other locations, 2 other incidents, similar type in Manhattan. another one uptown, and I believe another one down a little farther in the south. The flyers are up. If any small businesses do want those flyers, we can get them to you, but most of those pictures that we would give you are posted on social media, Twitter, Facebook. If you want a picture, like I said, you can reach out to us, and we definitely will get that for you. Some safety tips that we do recommend also, for small businesses, we do recommend you reach out to Officer Anthony Nuccio. He's our crime prevention officer. He does go out and he does security surveys for commercial establishments and residential houses of worship. He's done. He'll walk through your camera systems. He'll look at your cameras, and it's very important that, yes, people do have cameras, but the placement of cameras is extremely important. They could be they could be shown in blind spots, which is not good, which we've seen many times where we have cameras. We go and look at the cameras and they're in horrible positioning. They don't show anything. They're not properly placed where, we want them to be facing the front door. Yes. But when the person does walk in, you're capturing their face, or when they're exiting, you're looking at their face, not just a body. You want to be able to have the view of their face, an overhead shot of the face. So we can, if God forbid something does happen, we couldn't get a good a view and good picture to disseminate to the officers and to the detective squad if something does happen. That's very important. Cameras are important. Placement is more important. Upgrading your cameras too. Cameras are now a lot cheaper than they were back in the day. A high def cameras system a couple of years back was quite pricey. Nowadays, not so much. Yes, it is an investment, but it's an investment for your employees and to help God if something does happen, where we can try to locate the persons who are involved in the theft. At night, when you're closing, if you're closing your solo, make sure your business is properly well lit. That there's not items. I know I'm not an advertisement guy in the business of sales, but try to keep the items away from the front window, so there is a clear shot of people walking by can see into the stores. We had an incident on Madison Avenue several years back. Robbers came in. It was targeted a watch store. They held the place up at gunpoint robbery in 63rd Street and Madison Avenue. No one was able to see in the front window because they have a huge advertisement in the front window for their watches. No one had any clue. People walked by. We watched the cameras. 15, 20 people walk by as this guy's holding a firearm inside the store, and no one can see anything because the whole window was covered and the door was covered with some sort of advertisement for their watches and their branding. So that's important too. Not keeping some of these expensive items near your door entranceways. We had a problem on Madison Avenue, another store. People walking in, opening the door, stealing a $4,000 handbag. It's within arm reach of a door. You're inviting perpetrators to take advantage of that. It's open the door, arm in, out. 10 seconds, 5 seconds at most, and they're gone. But those are some key points. As I mentioned, Officer Nuccio, he can be reached here at the precinct. He will come out when he does have, he has quite a few built up already that he's going through. You can make an appointment with him for him to come out, and I'll give you his phone number. It's 212-452-0630. He'll come do a survey for you guys. Other items that we talk about is if you do have multiple employees, try to make sure that one is always out on the floor at times. Don't have both come off the floor to go into the back, check stock. And if you do have that type of, if you are, two people and one person's always in the back, one person's in the front, try to have some sort of camera, monitor screen where you can see what's going on in the front from the back, to see what the other person's up to, if they need help, if someone walks in. Because we have seen the issues where they do a type of distraction when there's one employee on the floor and someone else is in the back. They'll do a distraction, they'll grab, snatch and grab and go. Also the snatch and grabs. We're not going to tell you to tackle the person and all that, but, just use common sense and your safety is important. Yes, it's awful when people steal your items, but to risk your bodily harm to try to dive in the way and tackle him that's not going to turn out well. And we don't want you getting hurt. The best thing to do, get a good description, a direction of flight, where they went, just, if you want to follow at a safe distance. We're not going to tell you not to, but follow at a safe distance. If you're comfortable doing that, we're not going to tell you to do that or not, but give a good description, a direction of flight, 911, and, try to stay calm. And those are the best things that we can tell you to aid us in trying to apprehend that person. Anybody have any questions?
Anybody have any questions from the public?
Yeah, I'll just remind the public, if you'd like to participate, you can go to the reactions button at the bottom of your screen and press the raise hand button there. Only press it once. If you press it a second time, your hand will go back down. And if you're calling in from the phone, it's *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute. And if you're using an older version of Zoom, you may need to find the participants menu where you'll find the raise hand button there. You have a hand up from Cause, and we have Judy Schneider too.
Let's go with Judy first. She's a member of the public.
Go ahead, Judy.
Hi, Mike. Good to see you.
How are
See
you?
again in a little while. Michael, what can we do about getting more officers out to walk around and talk to the merchants? Matt, I don't know if this is you have more officers on Madison Avenue probably, but here in the East 60s, many of the merchants don't know the police officers. And if somebody comes in and takes stuff, they're reluctant to report it as a robbery, and they just put up with it until the next time it happens. And it's not like it used to be when the officers were out on the street.
Well, we are. I brought this up to the inspector recently. We're looking at working with the NCOs again to really get them out in the sectors concerned. We've added increased foot patrols and officers assigned to, as I mentioned earlier, Madison Avenue. Officer Murillo and Officer Ching are assigned Madison Avenue. They are out there every day walking. 86th Street, Inspector Eager just assigned officers to inspect 86th Street. That is their post now. They work 86th Street from Fifth Avenue to East End, but mostly concentrated in the commercial aspect area there, where we do see our heavy thefts in the chain stores there. Those are two officers assigned there. It's Officer Murphy and Officer D'Amato. But this is, we've talked, and she's working with our NCOs to get out there and a little more boots on the ground, walking around. But they are out there all the time. They're driving around, pulling film, working cases, dealing with some other issues, homeless and things of that nature. But they're definitely trying to get as much time walking around as possible.
Matt Bauer from Madison Avenue Bid. Hi, Matt. Can somebody unmute?
Yeah, hi. So I want to also add to the chorus of thanking you, Valerie, for stepping in there and helping out. Really do appreciate it, and it does show the the concern that retailers have about their safety, and I do appreciate the efforts of the 19th precinct to put out additional officers. Our beat officers, Officer Ching and the new Officer Moreau, has been really fantastic, and I can tell you that the store managers do have their telephone numbers, and they've been very great about doing that. And we do appreciate the evening and the car patrols. But a lot of our guys are, they do time and they look, and so this continues to be of concern, and we're just here to be supportive in any way we possibly can to the precinct and its efforts, and but it is genuinely a concern. One thing that has diminished quite a bit, we were getting a lot of overnight breaks in the windows, and Detective Lombardi mentioned our crime prevention officer, Antonuccio. One of the big efforts that he made was to ensure that businesses get that film over the glass, and that was a process that took a while, and it really did make a terrific difference on the avenue. And just to recommend that not only on Madison but anywhere that a protective film be placed on the windows. It really does help quite a bit. And just once again, thanks to the 19th and for all of you for their terrific support.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. I just want to say a little bit. I actually met Officer Morel and Officer Chang in the middle of what happened on Saturday. Actually, a friend and I were shopping on Madison Avenue, and yeah, that's where I was, Matt. And all of a sudden, this man and woman came crashing out of the store door, and they were fighting over merchandise. And it turned out there was a robbery in progress. My first reaction was to scream out, "Just let it go." And so, because I could see that the man was pushing this poor sales associate to the ground, and I didn't want her to get hurt. But then I looked out of the corner of my eye, and literally a half a block away was this cop car. So I ran towards the cop car, and my friend and the sales associate started running towards to get the guy. And as they were screaming, "Get the guy, get the guy," these two really nice men who lived on 64th Street, they started to pursue the thief as well. And it was just as crazy as it was, and it was, I think, in retrospect, probably a little dangerous, and we were all sort of acting on adrenaline. And but all these New Yorkers came together and basically said, "This is not going to happen on my watch." And so it was a great team effort. And the police were actually very close by, and so I said, as we were calming the poor young sales associate down in the store after everything happened, I said, "Wow, isn't this kind of timely, since on Monday night we're having this discussion about safety?" But I think it's really important. I felt really badly. I think the safety tips are really important, because I think you can't immunize your store from these kinds of things, but you can do, little things that will make it harder for these kinds of things to happen. So I think it's really important for the small businesses in the community to reach out to the precinct to get an evaluation of what they've got going on. Also thinking about having more than one person in the store, and working together to make everyone safe. And I just want to say that I thought the officers acted really professionally and very quickly, and they were on site almost immediately. And I actually run a lot faster than I thought I did. But also it ends
You
well.
reminded me of something else. It's very important. We try to tell a lot of these stories, and Matt hears us a lot. We do a lot of meetings with him and members on Madison, and this goes for all the stores. It's very important if there is theft. I'm sorry to cut you off, Valerie. It is important to call 911 in a very timely manner. Some issues we've had with some stores, I'm not going to name them, but their policy is, we got to call, central office, and we have to speak to a supervisor. And now you're looking at, maybe anywhere from 10 minutes to a day, and then it makes it that much harder to try to apprehend them and get a case going. Yes, we'll pull film and all that, but if you can call 911 right away and give a good description and direction of flight, the chances increase dramatically of us apprehending him, because we do, that all those 911 calls do come over as a priority, and our officers are directed away from whatever else they're doing to go towards that particular job.
Oh yeah, and that was particularly true on Saturday. I can just say, even though my friend and all these people were in pursuit of this guy directly, and I then called 911, and within seconds there were other cop cars there. So I mean, people should not hesitate. It really does act quickly, and thankfully it all turned out well. But the officers were great, I have to say that. So
I'd just like to jump in before we go to cause, because we're talking about what you did, Valerie, and what Detective Lombardi said in terms of 911. Is there anything else that a bystander should do if they see a robbery in progress, or get there just after there's been a robbery?
Well, yeah, it's just not you just got to remember too. Also, everybody likes to say robbery. With that instance, yes, that was a robbery, but
or burglary.
No, not burglary. Larceny.
Larceny. Thank you.
That's okay. It's just thankfully, we don't have many. We have robberies, but we're not really seeing the violence, which is we're always happy for, thankful for. But there are larcenies. It's always been our driving number here. We do have a lot of grand larcenies here in the precinct, which is the theft of 1,000 or more. I can keep reiterating, it's very important. Your safety is the most important, man. That goes for everybody. An item can be replaced. Yes, it's awful losing it and having someone steal from your store. But if you get hurt, you break an arm, or God forbid, if this person's that desperate and displays some sort of weapon and shoots you, or stabs you, that's your life is not replaceable. Give a good description, good direction of flight. If you want to follow them, that's up to you at a safe distance. 911, you stay on the phone with 911 operator, and can say, I'm following him. He's a block away. He's left on 61st, south on Lex. A good description, good direction of flight, and your safety is paramount.
Okay.
Thank you.
Kaz, you have a question?
Yeah. When I walk around, I see quite a few police cars stationed at major intersections, 79th and 2nd being one. And sometimes the car is there for several hours. Why is that?
So we have cars placed in locations throughout the precinct that are high theft locations. There's a Dwayne Reed right there that does see a lot of theft. We also have one, when they're available, when the radio's quiet. The inspector, it's the order of the inspector to do directed patrols at those locations. Another one at Target on 3rd Avenue, you have one there. Sunglass Hut on 3rd at 60th Street. That unfortunately gets hit a lot. So we have directed patrols there. Those cars are positioned strategically to help as a high visibility location.
Oh, okay, thank you. That explains it. Are the NYPD allowed to cross-ticket sanitation or DOT infringements?
For what specifically?
Well, let's just say, there's a lot of illegal buildings on sidewalks that are not supposed to be there.
A lot of what, I'm sorry?
Illegal buildings. The restaurants have put up buildings on the sidewalks that theoretically.
That's DOT in Department of Buildings. That's their wheelhouse.
But there's no cross-ticketing between. Okay.
We don't have any. Yeah, we're not doing any enforcement on those structures. That's more of a building code violations in Department of Transportation.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, by the way, does Valerie get a medal?
She always gets medals.
Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate that. How about Michelle Birnbaum?
Thank you. Hi, Mike. It's good to see you. I'm sad to say that the vendor committee won't be seeing you anymore because that enforcement has been removed from your jurisdiction.
That is correct.
So we'll see how it goes with DCA. We have a meeting next week.
I hope it's
just
good.
To hear about their structure, their enforcement structure. We'll see. But about this, I want to thank you personally, and thanks to Valerie. What I would like to see happen here is this incident be made public. I would like our community, the community as a whole, and the community board to know about the presence and the heroics of the police department and the precinct. And so I would like these good outcomes to be publicized. And I don't know, Will, if this fits in your jurisdiction, but you have your articles. I don't know if there'll be an actual article, but however you're able to send this out as neighborhood news in your weekly newsletter, I would like to ask that happen. And I also would like to know, this of course is a citywide issue. It's not just here. There was a shooting today in Times Square. There was a child either wounded or killed by a gunshot, whatever. Crime is all over the city. What's the department? What are the departments, or what's the police union, or what's the police as a group? What kind of pressure are they putting on the administration to be a little more forceful in cleaning this up? And my last question is, I'd love to know what kind of a repeater this perpetrator was. I can guarantee you he has had a significant amount of, crimes on his record. I think that should be publicized as well, because we all know what's happening. It's a slap on the wrist and, back on the streets, especially if no one was physically harmed. But we need to get ahead of this as a community board with publicizing the good that the police do, and with publicizing and reporting the problems with the current protocol and the repeat offenders that are on the street. So I hope somehow that can be taken up by other relevant committees or sent out in some way in our newsletter. But thanks for your service, Detective.
I guess to kind of answer one of those, I think I really can't speak for, the political aspect of things. I know the unions do speak a lot. They're very vocal on social media platforms and in the news. I'm not going to say anything because I like where I work, and I don't want to get fired. But I know, there is some violence in the city, and there are a lot of plans in place, and a bunch are working, and it's just hard. It is challenging, but we do deploy to other locations and precincts. When there's crime spikes in other commands, other parts of the city. We all work together, and we send officers from here uptown sometimes, or if we have an issue here, they're sent here. But we do work together, and the inspector's always in meetings, and there's a gun stat every Friday. We were just up for comp stat last week. The inspector on Thursday with downtown with the Chiefs. Manhattan North was up, so that there is a lot of accountability here in the police department, and we're doing what we can to keep crime down and make the rest we can.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Anybody else have any other questions? Okay, well, we know you're off to another
6 minutes.
6 minutes to the precinct meeting, so
Yes,
we'll let you
Inspector Eager's
leave
prepping
on
for that
time.
right now. Yep, she'll be on that meeting if you guys finish up and you want to hop on. The link is posted on Twitter and on Facebook. We're still trying to explore, hopefully getting in person. I'm not too likely that's going to happen. Likely it's going to happen this year. Maybe December. I'm not sure now. It's getting cold. Trying to have a windows, doors open, hats, gloves, scarves, maybe theme. I'm not sure. Maybe a holiday sweater to keep it very warm. But we're trying to. We want to get back in person. That's something definite we want to do. Hopefully in the new year. But Zoom seems to be working, and everybody knows how to reach us. I'll give my phone number again. If you want to reach me here at the precinct, it's 212-452-0613. My email is Michael, Michael, .Lombardi, LOMBARDI @nypd.org.
Thanks so much, Mike.
Before he goes, Detective Barry Schneider has his hand raised.
Sure.
Sorry,
You
Barry.
just muted yourself.
There we go. Mike, I'll see you in a few minutes on the other side.
You gonna leave the library?
Excuse me?
I said you're gonna leave the library?
Yeah, well, yeah, you won't see it. I'll fake it. In any event, Michelle, regarding your comments about the 19th precinct getting the word out, they do on Twitter almost every day. You'll see.
I meant to say that. Thank you, Barry.
Okay, and the other point I'd like to make very quickly is we have with us this evening, the editor of Tap the Local News, Mark Lusanich, and he might want to pick up on your suggestion to promote the event that took place that made a medal-wearing hero of our co-chair.
Yes, as Barry said,
Those are my comments.
Officer Nuccia does how he's our Officer Nuccia also is our crime prevention, and he's our he runs the Twitter. He's the social media officer here in the precinct. He does a great job. He does highlight a lot of positive things, arrests, and successful arrests that we have. And he's extremely active and does post a lot of our wanted flyers and things that are going on. He at home, he's actually texting me stuff that's going on right now. That someone sends him on Twitter. But always, I know internet savvy, but he's very active, and the information is extremely accurate that he does send. But I got to run right now. I'm getting waved.
All right,
so
thanks so much.
Guys. Take care.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
So thanks again. So the theme of this evening is really the internet. And so that's a great segue. And at this point, I wanted to introduce Michelle Robin, who, by the way, lives on the Upper East Side. So she's part of our community. And Michelle is a brand partnerships manager at TikTok. And she's going to take us through the social media landscape and highlight the importance and value of each social platform and how they can be helpful to small businesses. We've spent a lot of time in our committee these past months talking about city programs and regulations and promoting and bringing back our businesses. And we thought that let's put something out there that will help the small businesses actually bring some business to them. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Michelle, and you can kick it off, Michelle. Thanks for being with us tonight.
Thank you for that introduction. Am I able to share my screen? It's saying it's disabled right now.
Yeah, if you're ready to share your screen, you can.
Thank you. There you go. Perfect. Thanks for that introduction. Hi, everyone. As Valerie mentioned, I am reporting from the Upper East Side. I'm Michelle Robin. I am a brand partnerships manager at TikTok right now, but I spent a huge chunk of my career also working at Snapchat, and having worked at both TikTok and Snapchat, I'm very familiar with the social landscape. And so I'm going to try and give a very unbiased opinion, as my opinion obviously is always going to sway more heavily towards the platforms I work for, and more specifically TikTok, but understanding that each of these platforms really do add a huge value. And it's not necessarily about choosing one of them, but finding ways to activate on each of them to reach different audiences and different consumers that you're trying to drive impact for within your small business. I think it's also worth noting that the way advertising has worked has completely evolved and changed over the past 10 years, even more frequently, like the past 5 years. What once was TV and newspaper and print advertising, where it cost a fortune to advertise, you didn't really know who was seeing your ads and how they were getting to the right people, has completely evolved. And each of these platforms listed here, I don't have Twitter here, but it goes, in the same realm here. But each of these platforms have made it so easy, not just for advertisers in general, but for small businesses to be able to run media and reach the right audiences to run that media. So that way you're not wasting what we call impressions. You're reaching your core consumer that's going to, in fact, go and visit your shop and make it super effective and make your media go a really long way. So I'm going to take you through a few slides. We'll keep it conversational. You can chime in with any questions. I also have just an open Q&A at the end as well. So again, the agenda is to meet Michelle, going through some of the top advertising solutions across the social media platforms, looking at those social media platforms and comparing them, seeing the value in each of them, finding ways to reach your core consumer. So I think also, I'm sure a lot of you have seen like TikTok and Snapchat on the screen. You're like, oh, that skews too young. And matter of fact, like they're actually skewing significantly older than ever before. And then really figuring out what your campaign goals are, what you're trying to get across out of media, and how you're going to be able to set those campaigns up. It's quite easy to activate, as I mentioned, and even included in this little deck are some resources and just some tips and tricks across all the social media platforms. So I'll make sure that Valerie has this after, and everyone can use this as a reference. So again, that's me. So here's a snapshot of some of the top performing advertising solutions on each of these platforms. Again, each of these platforms offer many, many different types of advertising solutions. It's really figuring out what makes the most sense for your brand. A lot of the units, even more specifically to a TikTok or Instagram, even Facebook, are high impact units where you're going to reach everyone. And that's not what you're looking to do. You're looking to reach a very specific audience within your neighborhood to make sure that you're driving people to go visit your store. So some of these advertising solutions I listed here are more pertaining to video units that are easy for users to see this content, digest that content, not necessarily just swipe by it. And so to go through that in more detail, just wanted to give you a little bit of a comparison shot of TikTok versus Snapchat versus Instagram versus Facebook. It's important to note that there's a lot of similarities between each of these platforms in terms of like what those activations look like and what's necessary and what's needed. Important to note that at this point in time, majority of them are full screen. I don't have Facebook listed here as full screen, but you can do Facebook stories. They just get less usage there. That will get that full screen. One, depending on which platform you're working on, sound is going to be really important as it relates to creative. And we'll spend a little bit of time talking about creative as well. But something that's really important to note too is, and I think sometimes brands will stress out about this, is whether or not you have to have like an organic channel, or if you can just have an organic channel and not run paid media, it's going to vary between like what impact you want to drive. So if you're looking to really hone in on a specific target and really drive impact meaning like get them to achieve those goals, you'll be able to do that through paid media. TikTok and Snapchat both give you an option to not have to have an organic channel. So not have to have a separate channel to manage on top of paid media. Instagram and Facebook do require you to have that organic page, which I'm sure most of you have already set up. If not, that's something that we can discuss as well. But setting up your organic page, then to in fact run paid media on top of that. The most important thing to know, and where we're really going to spend time, is the fact that each of these platforms have self-service tools. And so what that means in an auction is a biddable media environment. That means anyone, any brands can go in and set up a campaign and run the campaign. And you're basically bidding on other people within that area that's looking for those same people to reach. And so the more niche you're going to get in this more specific audience, the more premium cost it's going to be, but it'll still vary. It won't be a drastic difference between, if you're going to reach a broad audience or a very specific audience. But I say this because, even Facebook and Instagram, and more recently, like TikTok and Snapchat, didn't necessarily have these self-service tools. These self-service tools rolled out within the past 5 years or so, and it made it so easy for small brands and big brands alike to be able to run campaigns on their own. So just going into that demographic, as I mentioned before, Instagram and Facebook actually don't share the breakouts, but this is actually great because I wanted to share just in general how many people are on each of these platforms. And you can see there's millions and millions of people. I have a slide that I present when I'm talking to my TikTok clients that really highlight the unduplicated reach that shows up on TikTok. They have that with Snapchat and Instagram and Facebook as well. So it's, again, just reiterating that on a given day, the people that you're going to find on TikTok aren't necessarily on Instagram, or the people you find on Facebook aren't necessarily on Snapchat. And that goes back into the way of saying, like, it is important to show up on each of these platforms. And the way to activate on each of these platforms is pretty comparable. So it's not necessarily like a huge heavy lifting on your end. And then you can see here, just focusing on like that TikTok and Snapchat and that age breakout, almost half of the users on TikTok and over half of the users on Snapchat are actually within that 25 plus range. TikTok actually released new numbers, so it's going to be over that 25 plus as well. So just understanding that there is an audience, there is a core consumer based on who you're trying to reach across all these different platforms. So going into how to get started, it is as easy as just going to Google and typing in, how do I activate on TikTok? How do I activate on Facebook? Anytime you type in any of these links, and again, I'll share all the resources, you'll get right to the ads manager sites where you can set up campaigns. You're thinking, okay, what do I do when I get there? So essentially, once you log in who your brand is, what the brand is, it'll take you directly to an objective page. The one on the left is from TikTok. Similarly, the one on the right is Facebook. And so when I say they all are very similar, aesthetically it looks a little bit different, but the exact setup is the same. And essentially what they want to know the second you log on to these platforms is, what is your goal? Is your goal trying to get people to view the ad? Is your goal going to get people to click on that ad so that way they can get more information about your business and then ultimately come visit your site or come visit your location? So figuring out what that goal is, and then from there, all the different systems will populate based on what you select. So if you select that you want to reach as many people within a specific location, we can go from there. Then it comes down to targeting. And this is what goes back to what I was saying before, like advertising has completely changed. And if you are on social media, you realize this because you're probably getting ads and you're saying, how did I get this ad? What's happening is there's algorithms on each of these platforms that's essentially picking up not only on your behavior across the web, but what they're doing is they're picking up on your behavior on their platform. So like for TikTok, for instance, if anyone's a TikTok user, which it does skew all demographics, all ages, you can go onto TikTok, and if I'm consistently consuming restaurant food and restaurant content and Mexican related food, I'm going to be put into a bucket of people who are most likely to engage with Mexican food. And so from there, if you own a Mexican restaurant, you can come on to the platform, say, I want to reach as many people as possible that like Mexican food, that like fresh food, and then even more specifically, are within this specific location. So TikTok is right now on a DMA level in terms of location targeting. So you can reach everyone in New York. But if you go into a platform like Snapchat, Facebook, or Instagram, even Twitter, you can do location targeting. So you can, or sorry, zip code targeting. So you can go on to Facebook and say, I want to reach people who are interested or engaged with Mexican food that's also fresh, that's within this zip code. And then I listed my zip code here. And so then you can reach all the people within that neighborhood specifically and get them to then convert and come to your restaurant. A recommendation just from a best practice standpoint is if your restaurant is within my zip code, I wouldn't recommend just targeting people. We know whether it be shopping or restaurants, people are going to go a little out of their way if it's something that they're interested in. So that's where we talk about like broadening your target a little bit. So I wouldn't necessarily, reach the entire state of New York, but it may make sense to reach everyone within New York City. So that way everyone in New York City has an opportunity to get ads about the best Mexican food, may it be. Any questions coming in?
You can keep going.
Okay.
Well, I have a question, if I
Sure.
may.
Yeah.
What if you're a store, and thank you so much for this really informative, to me, kind of surprising presentation about the power of advertising on TikTok, for instance, but it's neither here nor there. So if you have a store, for instance, and you want to get both foot traffic, but have a web presence, is there something different that you suggest?
Yeah, so I would go back to this page. So essentially, when you're looking at a campaign like this, you don't just necessarily need to set up one campaign, or you don't necessarily need to set up one objective. What they're called within a campaign, or there's different advertising sets, ad sets is what the terminology. And so the goal would be, and we're going to talk about creative, but is to have creative that's designed to drive people to your website. So it's going to say like, hey, visit this website, like click here, swipe up for X, Y, and Z. And then you're going to have a goal that's related to traffic and getting people to go to that website. My recommendation would be to then set up another ad set. So essentially like another campaign within the campaign. That's then that goal is to drive foot traffic. And the creative and the targeting and the objectives are all tailored towards that as well. So there's ways to achieve multiple goals within one campaign. I think that's where you layer on different objectives, different targeting, and even different creative messaging.
That's really flexible. Thank you.
Of course, and so what I was just alluding to is creative, as we were just talking about. I think a lot of, and this is what I faced when working at Snapchat and then even at TikTok, it's like, okay, I want to show up on these platforms. I have no idea how. I don't have creative. I don't know what to do. And these platforms are aware of that and have made it super easy and simple for you to be able to activate. And so you can see here on the right is a snapshot of Instagram. On the left is a snapshot of TikTok. And so when it comes to Instagram, you can upload a single image. It can be a very specific image, a zoomed in portrait mode of a beautiful like meal that you can get at a restaurant, and then add some text to it and then upload it to Instagram. As it relates to TikTok, like you can take your own video content, UGC, user-generated content, performs exceptionally well. It doesn't need to be high polished. It's content that I can make, that you can make. You can upload it over onto these platforms. And then each of these platforms have editing tools as well. So if you had video content or even like a still image that you wanted to use, or a series of images that you wanted to merge together into one piece of asset, you can add music to it and add a soundtrack. You can add different text overlays. Each platform has different text like elements that they like to include that make it appear native. So each of these platforms give you these tools right now to be able to make content or take content that you already have and make it relevant for their platforms. And then as it relates to activating, specifically for paid media, as I mentioned, there's a few steps that you need to take. And once you get there, important to note a few things. Minimums vary, but on average, it's like $25 a day. So as I alluded to originally, you don't need to pay hundreds and thousands of dollars to advertise anymore. You can pay $25 and then you'll just get that reach back of what you're paying for. My recommendation would always be to, when you're like launching on new platforms, to run as many pieces of creative with different messaging as possible. So if you're running a piece of creative and you want to test out different call to action, so come eat here now, or like, this is the best food, or like, have you checked this out yet? And like leaving them with a question, checking out, having one simple creative with different messaging, and then running all those different creatives within a campaign, you will then be able to, and this is just a snapshot of like what it looks like once you set up a campaign, you will then be able to see like which of those creatives are like meeting my objectives, which creative asset is driving the most amount of people to click on my site or to, end up at my location. So we'll be able to then track that. And then from there, all within this ads manager tool. And then from there, you can say, okay, come to this location. Is it the best call to action? And so moving forward, every piece of content that I make will have a similar type of call to action on it. So there's a lot of testing and learning, especially as you're new on different platforms. What works on an Instagram may not work on a TikTok and so on, or it may just resonate with your users across the board. So my recommendation would always be to just as many assets as you can as possible in terms of creative, go live with, and ultimately you can learn from that. And then the last piece I wanted to show here is that there's resources. So I'm always happy to help. Valerie will share my contact information, but you can see here, each of these different holding companies have business centers, have the tools and trips and videos to essentially teach you how to set up a campaign step by step by step. They also have like different quizzes that you can take to kind of test yourself and your knowledge. And then there's a bunch of like one sheets and collateral that you can reference based on what your objectives are, like what their recommendations in terms of advertising solutions will be. And that's it in a nutshell. I know I breezed through that, but I hope that that's helpful, and I'm here to answer any and all questions.
Well, this has been really super informative. I have to say, thank you so much, Michelle. Do we have any questions from the public or first, and then we can go. Matt, did I see your hand go up, or? Sure, go ahead.
Thank you, Michelle, for that great presentation. And we've been doing paid social media advertising for a while, and it's about time that we start doing it with TikTok. So thank you for being the impetus to do it. I've been using other paid social media platforms, but you're right. We should do it as well. But is the maximum video length is 3 minutes?
So it varies by each platform. If you're asking specifically for TikTok, from an organic standpoint, it's 3 minutes. From a paid media standpoint, it's 1 minute, but there's workarounds. So essentially 3 minutes, it can be up to 3 minutes. And I will tell you, like, a best practice across all of social media is just understanding that like everyone's on the go. TikTok's actually a very different user behavior, because if you're on it, it's more of an entertainment platform. You're not necessarily, you can't watch TikToks while like watching TV or on like, talking to friends or whatnot. Whereas every other platform, you're on the go. And so it's finding out ways to capture users' attention. This is why like creative and targeting are the most important things as it relates to advertising and creative messaging, and making sure that you're getting in that branding. So if you are trying to drive people to Michelle Robbins' apartment, you want to make sure that you're natively incorporating Michelle Robbins' apartment from the get-go, and not at minute, like 2 minutes and 16 seconds, because by then you might have already lost them and they have no idea what you're advertising for. So if you're trying to tell a long form story, you absolutely can on our platform or on other platforms. I would just be cautious of like front loading your branding.
Okay. And one thing I did notice is that you could upload on your desktop while some of the other video related or Instagram you can't. So is there any difference in uploading from mobile or versus uploading from your desktop?
From a paid media standpoint, there's no difference. You can activate, on the desktop. I will say, just in terms of advertising, like TikTok has a website. I'm not sure if that's what you're talking about, but TikTok's website doesn't have advertising on it. But the way you set up the campaigns, you can do on the desktop.
Okay. And you don't participate in Hootsuite, correct?
I'm unaware of what that is.
Oh, don't worry. It's okay.
You
Good
can.
enough. Okay. I'll,
All
right. But thank you. Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Of course.
Thanks. Michelle Birnbaum, question?
Thanks, Michelle. That was very informative, especially for me, who I'm not on TikTok or Instagram, because of what I hear about them and what content often is. You're not really necessarily the person to ask this, because you're working for a company and you have a specific job to do, but you're well aware of the reputation of TikTok and the concerns that people have about it. And I personally have witnessed some of those by just observing my grandson, who I'm trying to tout off getting his news from another 13-year-old on TikTok. So there's a lot that can go wrong on TikTok. I'm just wondering how you and the company address those concerns with the public. Yeah, I know you're not making, that kind of outreach is not your decision, but what is the company, what's their policy? What do they tell you to do? How do you handle these inquiries?
That's a great question. And I think it's fair to say that whatever platform you allow creativity, people are going to speak their voice and they're going to give their opinion. And that's not always going to be accurate information. And so we see that on TikTok, I saw it on Snapchat, it exists on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and so on. And that's absolutely something hard to avoid. I will tell you that misinformation is something that TikTok, and I can speak to that just because I work there, takes very seriously. And so there's a few different ways that we're moderating that. We have teams in place, we have technology in place, we allow our users to report information. So I work with some of the largest healthcare clients and advertisers in the world. And they realize that this is a safe space because of all these parameters that we have. And if there's misinformation that they see on the platform or that I see on the platform, we have teams that are essentially able to, you can click on it and report it and they can take it down.
Does that also apply to what people call news?
News is a very general term. So news can.
I'm saying to what the person imparting the news, which ends up oftentimes editorializing, but that's not your responsibility. I'm just wondering what the company, how the company addresses that and how you convey that to the public, the company's point of view.
Yeah, if it's fake news and it's misleading information, we have teams, technology, and we allow our users to report that information.
Oh, so it picks that up. It's sensitive enough to pick that up.
Correct. Both the teams, the technology, and again, our users.
Good. Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay. Anybody else from the public with a question for Michelle? Julie Swift, Manhattan Dance. Welcome, Julie.
Hi, thanks. Hey, Michelle, I want to know if we can get together because I want to pick your brain. It's so, of course, not a big health company. So, but we can definitely dance. Yeah, that's so thank you for coming. And I've always been very reserved and, but I think it's just a necessary, evil. And I tell you who I really take issue with is Yelp, because and I've gotten a bad review And I've refused to really engage. It's not truthful. But Yelp will take it down if you if you advertise with them. So that's mainly who I take as far as any of these platforms go, that's who I take issue with. I think that they are just horrible. And the thing is like I was telling my dance kids, my analogy is that's basically bullying, because a small business can't get rid of that. A big business can spend enough money to get rid of it. So it's like the unpopular kid versus, the cheerleader. I was the cheerleader, honestly, but I'm not the big school or the big conglomerate that can spend $10,000 to bury that review. So yeah, thanks. So thanks for your service.
Yeah, I'm happy to help. And I think that I've seen this before, Julie, where brands will take small businesses, will take what they've seen on, say, a Yelp, take that review and put it almost behind them as like a green screen on TikTok and address it. And it's your way of building like engagement and addressing it head on. If you can't do it on Yelp, and you may be shown to the same people who would see it on Yelp, it may attract a new audience, add some humor and some personalization. I wouldn't get into like full defense mode, but I'd get into like,
no, it's actually kind of a funny, like it's, I thought it was, yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that. Okay, I want to go hang out. That's awesome.
Okay, well, we'll put you guys together. Thanks for that, though. And Wendy, you have a question? Wendy McIver? Can we unmute her?
She is. Her computer just takes a little bit of time to unmute.
Hi, can y'all hear me?
Yes. Hi, Wendy.
Oh, excellent. Michelle, thank you so much. What an amazing presentation. And I hope you can come back more and do the advanced version as well. So I have two questions. One is you had the last slide you had some links on it. Is it possible, since we can't click in a Zoom presentation, or I couldn't anyway, is it possible to drop those links into the chat so that we can explore those particular pages that you were referring to, those business pages? That was question one.
I absolutely can, and I will do that right now.
Thank you. So nice of you. And question two is, a big elephant in the room that we're not talking about is YouTube. And the reason that I'm thinking about it today is because today the Facebook emporium was down for a lot of the world. That meant, it also meant Twitter was down, and Instagram was down, and WhatsApp was down. And that could be, if you're launching something, that could be a powerful hit. I know that YouTube also has a robust advertising platform. Is there a way to integrate stuff like TikTok and the other platforms with YouTube? Do you have an experience with YouTube or any thoughts? And we're all ready to worship whatever you are saying.
Yeah, absolutely. You can only imagine the comms going on at TikTok today, knowing that Facebook and Instagram were completely down. And the amount of content on TikTok is insane, where people are flocking to our platform because they were just craving some sort of social media today. Those types of things are unavoidable. And if I said that would never happen on any other platform, I'd be lying. But that's why it's really important to diversify your media plan. It's something I talk about often in my career, because I come in, working on social media, and I worked at Snapchat from early days, and now TikTok from early days. It started over a year ago when TikTok was just getting started, and I had the same experience at Snap when everyone is just so used to working with Facebook and Instagram. And that's great, right? Because it's achieving their goals. But my job is really to reinforce the fact that you're not reaching everyone you can be reaching by just working with those platforms. And it's another point to say that when days like this happen, or if your objectives aren't being met on other platforms, it's great to be able to diversify and, be on every platform, because there's a value to each platform and there's a different person on each platform. Does that help answer your question?
Yeah, that does. I think the sort of ancillary question then is about content. Because it's incredibly helpful to know that advertiser content is technically restricted to a certain amount of time, and posting content is different. And so your advice would be to stay with a shorter message. I mean, I can only imagine, like, if a restaurant wanted to put up a food preparation bit of content to let people have some insight into the wonderful things that were going on in the kitchen, that keeping it short seems to be where the sweet spot is, rather than going on for, say, 5 or 10 minutes and then advertising that content.
Yeah, short is going to always be better. That's not just a social media thing, that's an advertising thing. That's a 2021 everyone's attention span thing, that even, the most popular content is short form content. And so people are just on the go, living different, busier, active lifestyles, and you want to find ways to really capture their attention quick and easy.
Awesome. Thank you so much for answering my questions. I appreciate it. Hope you come back.
Thanks for answering them, asking them.
Matt, did you have another question, or did your hand just not come down?
No, I actually had another question. Sorry, I'm getting the technical stuff here. I apologize. With connecting, as other social media platforms have, you sign up, and I see in TikTok, you could link your YouTube and your Instagram accounts. How does it work in terms of if you post something on TikTok being put onto those other platforms, or vice versa?
So I believe you can link out to YouTube from TikTok. I don't believe that you can link out to Instagram or Facebook, but I can get back to you and confirm on that.
Oh yeah, I'm on the profile. It shows us.
Oh no, that's just sharing content.
That's just sharing content.
Sorry, you can share content. That's different than like putting a call to action and linking out to it. So essentially I can post a video on TikTok and I can then post it to my Instagram stories. People do that quite often.
Okay, so it'll work.
There's different pools of people. If I post something on TikTok, it can, and I've posted content that has gone viral and millions of people can see it all over the world, or I can post it on Instagram and like my 500 followers can see it. And so there's different use cases and different reasons why people post content and want it seen in different places, but we do give our users the ability to share it elsewhere.
And is it any way automatic that it would immediately be, if you share something on TikTok and you link it to an Instagram account, is it automatic that it gets posted on Instagram, or no?
It's like not necessarily automatic, but it basically, once you post it, like the share screen pops up and you can type in where you want to share or select where you want to share it. So it makes it very easy for you to like post content. Then it's like a reminder, like want to share it with your friends, want to text it, want to post it on Instagram. So you can post content. I will say like the most comparable are like Instagram stories, because they have reels now in TikTok. So a lot of the content can be like interchangeable.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Okay.
I have a question that follows up a little bit on Julie Swift's point. The FDA controls content in a sense in advertising on national media, like TV broadcast. What happens if there are two similar restaurants on a block and one says, we don't use MSG, restaurant X uses MSG, please come to us? And that's just not true. Do you have, and you said that you would take off, I guess, a bad review that's not true, but what do you do when it's an advertiser that posts false information?
It's the same reporting mechanism. If it's posting something and it's saying like, it's Michelle saying Valerie's restaurant is bad and it serves a lot of MSG. And if Valerie's like, that is in fact not true, then she can report it to whatever platform it is and say, this is false information. Can you please have this removed? And like prove why that in fact is false information. And then most likely the platform will go ahead and take that down.
So do you give an opportunity then for the two competing restaurants or any businesses where there's misrepresentation or lies that are alleged to present evidence to you, and then a decision is made on the basis of what they say, or is there some other mechanism? I don't know if you know, but I'm just curious. Thank you.
From what I understand, it's similar to what you just said. It would be basically someone who sees the content that's not accurate. If it's proven to not be accurate and you can prove that it's not accurate, you can report it and hope that platform takes it down.
Okay. Thank you.
Of course.
And thank you for your presentation. It was thorough and enjoyable, and I think really hopefully useful for people.
Yeah, I think I thank you again, Michelle. I mean, obviously, it sounds like certain people, we want to have you back at some point, and maybe by that time, Michelle and I might be on Instagram or something. I know I'm not on a lot of social media myself, so now I'll have to investigate. But this has been really informative, and just for people out there in the chat or the different places where you can get access to information about the various different social media groups. And obviously we can act as a conduit between Michelle and others who want to get in touch with her. And I think for now, I say thank you so much for this great presentation. And I hope if others, I know a lot of people on here feel the same way. And if you have a business or a friend in a small business on the Upper East Side who you think can take advantage of some of this great information, as I said, it will be something that you can see in our archives. And so I'm thinking that this is going to get a lot of hits, Michelle, going forward. So
it will be on YouTube. Maybe we should post
it'll be on
the other
YouTube.
media.
So we'll see how many hits we get. Thank you again for that. And so I guess, what are we moving to, old business?
But before we move to old
okay.
business, I'd just like to take a second and introduce
right.
our newest public member, which is Maureen Donahue. So thank you very much, Maureen, for joining and for your work on behalf of the community. I'm excited to have you participate on the Small Business Committee. Thank you.
I'm very happy to get involved. Thank you.
Valerie, back to you.
Okay, well, do we have any old business that we want to discuss? Does anybody have something they want to bring up from prior meeting that they want to continue? Okay, that's no. Any new business? Something that anybody wants to talk about at this meeting or thinks would be a good topic for a future meeting? Happy to hear from all parties on any ideas on that score.
Yeah, we do. Please you can email Valerie directly or me directly at camp@cb8m.com or through Will. I'd also like to bring everyone's attention. I know Will sent out the information, but Wednesday there is a hearing at the City Planning Commission on the Open Restaurants Program. Testimony both in favor and in opposition is welcome. So you can go to, I think if it's on our website, Will, if not, you can put information, I guess, in the chat or on the website.
It's on the City Planning's website.
Sorry?
It's on the City Planning Commission's website.
Okay, on the City Planning Commission's website, you can sign up, and I think it's 3 minutes of testimony, and it's during the daytime. Thank you. And Matt, you have your hand up. So
yeah, just a quick thing. Once again, thanks again. Just want to let you know, in terms of new businesses opening, on Thursday last week, Alexis Batar reopened on Madison. They actually had closed prior to the pandemic, and they've reopened at a new location at 1001 Madison between 77 and 78, which is great. And if you haven't seen it yet, we on another social media channel, YouTube, you can see the Madison Avenue Welcome Back Wave, where you have about 40 stores, doing Welcome Back Wave. You can see it on our channel, on our Madison Avenue Bid channel. It's very, I think, inspiring in a lot of ways to see the folks that are working at our stores, just welcoming people back. And our next event is going to be on October 23rd, Saturday, October 23rd, which is the Fall Madison Avenue Gallery Walk. And we should have the information about all the galleries that are participating very shortly. But it's about 40 galleries open to the public, free, hear talks from some of the great gallery directors. And it's an important part of what makes the Madison Avenue retail community strong. So thanks for putting that in the chat. Well, that's right. Thank you. So that's the story. Thanks again.
Yeah.
Thanks for reminding me, Matt, that the wave, it actually kind of brought tears to my eyes. It was really very, very touching. It was just beautifully done. I'd also like to say that in addition to the store that you mentioned, I'm glad to see that William Greenberg expanded. And when things improve with COVID, they'll have a space for coffee in the inside. But in the meantime, they have a couple of outdoor tables that don't intrude on pedestrian traffic on Madison. And there are some new businesses. I walked down Lexington a lot. There were some new businesses on Lexington in the 70s that I went into to welcome. So I'll say it now, just welcome to the neighborhood. And please, everyone, shop local, dine local, order in local without the apps, and support all of our local businesses. Did I cut you off, Valerie?
No. I was just going to say, I wanted to give a shout out to Matt and his 2 special events that he had at the beginning in September. And thank you so much for the recognition that you gave to Community Board 8, our chair, Russell Squire, and the rest of the community board. It was really nice. It was a really great event. And thank you for including all of us in it. It was very special.
Honored to have you. Thank you. No, thank you very much. I think it meant a lot to the stores to have you, there and be part of it. And we're all in this together.
Absolutely.
So really just appreciate everything that you do, and I certainly value the tremendous work done by the Small Business Committee and being a resource and obviously taking notes on TikTok. So thank you very much for that. I really appreciate it.
Thanks. Okay, anything else? Otherwise, do we have a motion to adjourn? No motion to adjourn?
Where's Kaz on this? There he is.
Yeah, there he is. Okay, thank
Any
you.
seconds?
Yeah, I'll second it also.
You can't second yourself, but I'm sure that there's someone else out there who would
Michelle
be happy
did.
to second. Michelle, okay.
Great.
Then welcome again, Maureen. Shall we say we're adjourned, Valerie, and see everyone at the next full board meeting?
Same here. Go ahead.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everyone. Bye.